Take a look at how I use a piece of this log and turn it into an epoxy slice side table. After marking out 5 inches where I wanted to cut it and labeling all the little slices, I cut it with a chainsaw, and as you can see, when the pieces fell apart, it was like a puzzle putting it back together. That's why I labeled it before cutting. I used a piece of plywood with some sheathing tape to prepare the base, then it was on to sanding each piece. I also gave the pieces a good cleaning, burned off any loose fibers that would get stuck in the epoxy, and then I assembled the pieces back on the base that I had made. I traced it so I know exactly where to glue it, used some hot glue to glue the pieces down, and then I just used silicone around the bottom to make sure that the epoxy doesn't leak. I used a layer of painter's tape under the sheathing tape. I find this just comes off the wood way easier than the permanent tuck tape. Once the whole thing was taped off, I rubbed it on the best I could, hoping for no leaks. It was onto the epoxy. Now the epoxy I'm using is a 2-part bar and tabletop finish from my friends at Rust-Oleum, so it did require several pours to finish the project. The color I'm going with here, I wanted something that blended a bit more into the natural wood, so it's a golden amaretto. Now the good thing about this epoxy is it's extremely quick drying. There were days where I poured in the morning and then I poured again in the evening because it was rock hard. However, it did require 3 full pours and 1 half pour to get to this level. I was running to check on this project every 10 to 15 minutes, and I was so happy when there were no leaks at all. So when I took it out of the mold, I was super satisfied up to this point. Now it was on to flattening. The epoxy had dried and I needed to level out both sides of the stump so I can attach it to the legs. For that, I'm going to use my modified router jig. I built this mainly for taller stumps. However, as you can tell, it could be used on smaller pieces like this, no problem. After both sides were flat, it was on to the final sanding. You have to be careful not to gum up the epoxy, so I was careful when I was sanding, but I did go all the way up to 400 on the top, 320 all around. Now it was time to oil. Look at how beautiful that natural oil, kind of like a Danish oil type, is making that epoxy shine. It's giving that wood a little bit of a richer color. All I had to do now was spray some legs, attach them, and we're done. This piece was fairly small and light. I didn't need threaded inserts, so I just used regular wood screws to attach the legs, and there you go. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Till the next time. Vic from the Stump Shop.